Hello and welcome to Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter, Actresses. I'm Matthew Bellany. I'd like to welcome our guests today, Saoirse Ronan, Allison Janney, Mary J. Blige, Emma Stone, Jennifer Lawrence, and Jessica Chastain. Let's get started. Obviously, the headlines in Hollywood this year are instance of alleged harassment after instance of alleged harassment in the industry. Some people believe that the entertainment industry will never be the same. I'm curious about your thoughts on this and whether all of these stories coming out are going to lead to actual change. And we'll start with Jessica.
I hope the entertainment industry will never be the same.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Louis B. Mayer and Fatty Arbuckle and Jack Warner, if you read Shirley Temple's book, you find out what happened to her when she was a child. There is a history of abuse against women in our industry, and it's never been addressed. And I think I'm devastated by all the stories that have come out because it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, I feel hopeful because we're not ignoring it anymore. And it's painful for change, but it's needed. It was needed many, many years ago. But what's coming out now, I mean, there's abuses, not just in terms of gender, but in there's so much that needs to change about Hollywood. And I think that the industry will become extinct unless we show a more modern version of the world that we're presented with.
Do you feel a sense of vindication almost that these stories are being told?
Yeah, I think that the big misconception, though, is that this is just in the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. I mean, once again, the entertainment industry is kind of the stage at which you can see the inner workings and the problem that are all over the world. It's the only reason why there's so much focus on the entertainment industry is because these people are famous. You know, if a flight attendant comes forward about a pilot, it doesn't end up in the news because nobody knows about it. That doesn't mean that there's less sexual abuse going on anywhere else in the world in any other place of work. But fortunately, we're starting the conversation now.
Do you agree with that? Or is there something specific about being an actress where there is a power dynamic and someone is in a position to make or break a career and to exploit an actress in that way?
Well, I think what she's referencing is definitely true. We see these people, maybe they grab headlines in a different way, or what we do grabs headlines in a different way. But no, I think it's a pandemic. It's through every industry. There's a really amazing article that Britt Marling wrote that was essentially saying if we were paid equally, if women were paid equally in every industry, this would not be occurring. I mean, this is something that women have had to fit into these different boxes for so many years just to get work. And if these things are happening and they bring them to people's attention, they're much more likely to be fired or to be dismissed in any industry than a man in a more powerful position. So I think that it's a huge conversation for our industry, certainly, but I would hope that this is only the tipping point for every industry, for us to discuss equal pay for equal work for women across every industry, because that's been a change that we've needed since the beginning of time in industry.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Have these stories coming forward, have they caused you to look at things throughout your career, maybe with a different light, and reevaluate some of the interactions you may have had?
I feel, I'm very fortunate that I've never experienced any kind of harassment at all, and I don't know. The only reason why I can think that is that I was, I'm 5'15", and I didn't. My career didn't start till I was later, like 38, and my life. I started in the theater. I didn't experience this, and yet I was always aware of the casting couch. That was just something that I thought women had to navigate. Growing up in the business, or I thought, well, someday I'll probably have to do that, but I know how I would, I always felt prepared in my mind if that were to occur, what I would do. But it's exciting to think of a time that where kids growing up won't know what that is, that will be a thing of the past, and there won't be any more abuse of power. That's the most upsetting thing to me, is people who abuse their positions and their influence, people that people look up to, artists who are revered, and of course young people coming up are going to look to them, and it's just one of the worst crimes, I think, to abuse your influence and power in a negative way. And it's exciting to think of our culture changing, and it's high time.
Have any of the stories that have come out been especially resonant to you as an actress who has grown up essentially in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that for me, I was the same as Allison. I've never experienced that. I think I was very lucky that I was protected from a lot of that. I never was really exposed to what went on at parties. I was never left on my own with anyone. My mum and dad were always around, so I was very kind of protected in that way. But I think, I mean, every story that's come out has so much gravity to it, has so much weight to it. And I think it would be wrong to sort of like, you know, escalate one over the other. But I think just because you can actually hear it happening, the one with that Italian, was she an actress?
She was a model actress.
She was a model actress.
The one, the Harvey Weinstein story.
And what was incredible about it is that she was brave enough to go back the next day because she knew that this was important for this to come out. And the fact that she put herself in that position again and made herself so vulnerable and still nothing was done about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the really disappointing thing about all this is that like they've had all of this, you know, shit basically on all of these men and women for the last few years, but they haven't done anything with it. It's just been swept under the carpet.
Do you think that the culture will change? Perhaps people will be less inclined to do these things because of fear, but do you think the culture of the leverage of power and culture of abuse will change?
I hope eventually. I think it's going to be a while. I think it's so deeply ingrained, unfortunately, socially. And I don't even know, you know, if you think about mothers with their sons, obviously it's not coming from their parents. It's kind of this social proof of some way of your masculinity. And also what Emma was saying is so true, that until we're equal in every way, then how can you expect us to be respected verbally if we're not being respected in every other way?
Yeah, whenever you have one demographic that's in charge of the livelihood of another, you're going to have abuses of power. I mean, for me, I'm really interested in your point of view on this in terms of coming into the industry, being in music, now being in film.
In the industry, I like her, I never had that problem. I was always kind of like a tomboy and one of the guys. And I feel really sad for the women, but I'm happy that they're free. Everyone that's coming out, I'm happy that they're free because they had to hold on to a secret that they may have seen shrinks for years and years and years. So I'm just happy for them, and I believe that things will change because this is making other women say me too, me too, me too, and that's why it just keeps happening every day because people are tired of sitting around with that secret and that thing that holds them prisoner. So I think it will change things because people don't want to be in bondage anymore. And women have been going through this since they were children. You know, I went as a child. I went through it all the way up until adulthood. But when I got in the music business, I never had it because I went through so much of it in childhood.
But do you think that you said you were a tomboy? Do you think you made that decision to shield yourself from it?
I did because when I've been through so much. As a child and a teenager, I just started not that I was a guy, I just wore baggier jeans and Timberlands and hat turned backwards so I won't, be so revealing. It took me a very long time to even wear makeup and tight clothes because I'd been, through so much. And that I've been through has been a secret that I still, I exposed it on Oprah, but there's so much more that people don't know. So like I said, I'm happy that these women are hopefully, free because it hurts. And you have to go through this, and women all over the world, like she said.
That's another thing as well, is that these people who went through it then had to get up the next day and still go to work.
Yeah,
or they've had to see these men for years and shake their hand and take photographs with them or get on a flight and work with it or whatever it is, and that's also, imagine how much strength that would have taken to do that every day.
I also just want to, because I'm someone who holds a lot and gets really nervous to speak a lot of the time. we have to also recognize that there are so many women who haven't told their stories yet, who aren't comfortable to share. And this is a deeply, and I know this is a very millennial word, but it's a very triggering time for a lot of women too, to see these stories come out one after the other, whether they have stories to share or not about assault or harassment. It's a very difficult thing to watch. I also want to say for women, I feel so much compassion for those who haven't shared their stories yet, who are still getting up and going to work every day, either with their abuser or have had abuse in their past, and who are not ready to say anything. And I think that putting pressure on women to share it, if you're not saying it now, then you're complicit in this evil that's occurring, isn't fair also. I think we need to have a lot of compassion and patience that more and more stories might come out in a slow way and in a way that feels comfortable to people who have been victims of this kind of trauma.
It's interesting, we haven't seen as many people in the music industry come forward as in the film and TV industry, and I'm curious why you think that is. Is it because of this, because people may still be afraid, or is it because it's less prevalent?
I think a lot of people are not ready, and a lot of people or a lot of women do, I don't want to say it, but a lot of people, when you're a young artist, you're young and you want to be an artist and you want to be an actress, there's people that threaten you to do certain things, and
that's what I was going to say.
Sometimes you do certain things, and that is sexual harassment, but they don't know what it is because they agreed to
Or they think it's
they don't know
normal.
what it is, but also sometimes I've had this happen. I finally made the decision to stand up for myself. I went to go to the bathroom at work, and then and one of the producers stopped me on the way and was like, we can hear you on the microphone. You've been really, unruly, and which was not true. I was
up anyway.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah,
That's very unprofessional.
Very unprofessional. And we don't know if we're gonna basically threaten my job because the director said something fucked up to me, and I said, "That's sick. You can't talk to me like that." And then I was punished, and I got afraid that I was afraid I wasn't going to be hired again.
Yeah, you
and
were
I was called difficult and a nightmare. So I think a lot of people aren't coming forward because they're afraid they're not gonna work again.
Exactly.
That's what needs to change. You need to be able to say this is wrong and have somebody do something about it instead of saying, "Oh, it's wrong, well, you're fired."
I think you're right, though, Emma, in what you're saying, too, that the women need to know that there's support here for them no matter what.
Absolutely.
If they don't ever want to come out and say something, that's fine.
Yeah.
But to know that, I would imagine, having not gone through it myself, to know that other people have experienced this as well and they're not the only one, the strength that hopefully that'll give them just in themselves, too, is really important.
To relate it a little bit to some of the films we're talking about today, there's a big through line in your film about this fight for equality and fight to be taken seriously. What about the current climate did you bring to the preparation for this role?
Well, we shot Battle of the Sexes in the spring of 2016, so it was still, when it comes to our political climate, we were still there was a lot of hope happening, and it was early days. So, it was fascinating because it's a true story. It's a historical event. It happened in 1973, and now we're here 44 years later, and the depressingly relevant facts of the film are, very tough to look at. That there have been strides made. Like I've mentioned before, women can get their own credit card without a male signing for it, which you couldn't in 1973. You had to have a man sign. And so obviously, we have our own credit cards, I'm sure all of us now, which is great. And we're really, really thankful. That's enough. Yeah, that's enough. No, we're fine. But, there's such a long way to go. You're offering the men's winner exactly 8 times what you're offering the women's winner. Do we bring in an eighth of the crowd?
I don't know percentages, but...
Well, they sold the exact same amount of tickets to the women's final today as the men's. Isn't that right, Jack?
Today, yeah, I suppose so.
Same sales, same prize money makes sense to me.
Oh, come on, be reasonable. There's no way that we could afford that.
What's your argument, Jack?
Well, for one thing, the men have families that they have to support.
Well, I'm the main breadwinner in my family. That was kind of what we brought, was studying that era and just seeing how little in many ways has changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. You mentioned the pay issue is interesting because even before the current climate, there's a lot of stuff that came out in the Sony hack about pay and getting equal.
Did you hear about
Getting equal pay. I will get to her.
Just wondering.
Thanks, John.
But how much is that part of the conversation when you approach a new job? Is it something that you are adamant about? You want to know what everyone else is being paid? You want to know that there's pay equality on a project? Is that something that you bring up before you take on a role?
I do. I think when you look at the industry, a lot of the problems in terms of wage equality, but also in terms of writers and directors coming onto a project, it starts at the agency level. Because I now have a production company and I'm asking for, can you guys send me a list of writers? And it's all men. And I'm realizing that on, not necessarily for parts, because we wouldn't probably play the same role as an actor, but for the agents, they're going to submit the writers that have the higher quote because they get a percentage of the quote. So that's leading us to why there's not so many female filmmakers, right? But then also in terms of wage equality, I don't understand if you're at a very successful agency and they know what everyone's making on the film, how an agent is okay with you making a third of your co-star's salary. I've been on projects after Zero Dark 30, I was sent a lot of scripts where it was a female protagonist and they wouldn't do my deal until they knew who the male actor was because they needed to do his deal first and then see what was left over.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So from now on, if someone has something they're bringing to me, great, let's do my deal. But also, if someone's showing up for 3 weeks of a 2-month film, they're not getting paid more than me.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I feel like before I used to trust the industry to but
be protected.
Exactly. But I think we've just come to realize we have to be more proactive.
Is that a priority for you? You've been vocal on this issue.
It's much easier for me now to be paid fairly. The reason I spoke out about it was really, I'm fine. I'm okay. It's just if I'm going through this and once again, we're in the industry, everybody's looking at us. If we're going through this, every woman in the world is going through this. So now, obviously, it's something that I look closely at. The real problem is the normalization of it. It's the reason why your agents don't think twice about paying you a third of your, because it's been so normalized for so long. That's why, like, when I was being disrespected on the movie and I was being treated a certain way and I would call, nobody could do anything about it because the behavior was normalized.
Yeah. It's an industry that's normalized abuse and violence and pay gaps.
Allison, is there a role that you've played that has really stuck with you and influenced you in your personal life, especially?
Was not expecting that question.
Can I answer it for you?
Pay, you can do that. If you'd like to talk about pay, you can do that as well. But
If I'd like to talk about what?
about pay, the things. That,
Oh, pay. No, I'm like, it's so funny. I do a TV show that 2 women are the lead. So we're like, damn, we don't know how much we're not getting paid. But we don't have a way to compare.
How much could we be
If a
making?
man made more than you guys, I would be surprised.
I would cry. I suppose, well, I mean, West Wing, C.J. Craig was huge because she's such a great role model, and I have a lot of people that come up to me to say that character inspired them to go into politics, go in public service, and that's fantastic. I just feel like such a pretender to the throne in that role because I'm not as clever or smart as CJ is, and I feel bad. I feel like I let people down when they actually meet me and like, oh, you're not anything like CJ. But then there's some other, other roles that I've done that people, that's the one. I'm gonna go with that one.
That's a good one.
Was that what you were hoping I'd say?
I don't know. I'm a fan of that show.
I'm like wondering. I feel like I'm playing Password, and I'm like, is this the right answer?
Does this please you?
CJ, I have watched that so many times, and I was like, I am stealing that moment and that moment and that laughing thing.
You got to work with my.
Well, it's interesting because you just worked with Aaron Sorkin on this film, and I was mentioning it before. He has been criticized a little bit in the past over some of the female characters, and people have said that they, don't control their own destiny and things like that. But then you look at a character like C.J. Craig on The West Wing, or your character in this film, seems like they kind of do control their own destiny. I mean, what's your take on that?
What's my take on that? What I'm so excited about, and I hope that other people who've been in the industry as long as Aaron Sorkin has, and ones that have as much power as he has, are inspired by what he did. Because for his directorial debut, he decided to tell the story with a female protagonist. And he made a film about patriarchy in terms of family, in terms of industry and government. And what women have to do to try to navigate the rules of men.
My brilliant find. He lost
Marty,
$6 million
stop.
on my table.
Stop.
Moved to Florida, got a job as a substitute teacher, then hanged himself
and
in
that's
his shower.
your fault. That's
Johnny
not your
Silverman's
fault.
dead. Harlan Eustace is in jail in Nevada, wishing he was, but that's not why I'm saying no.
You're not saying no.
I was named after my great-grandmother.
I don't care.
Molly.
We will
Dublin
stay
Bloom
here all night
is my
until you
name.
understand. Until you understand nobody gives a shit about your good name.
I do.
Why?
Because.
Why?
Because.
Tell me why.
Because it's all I have left.
When I read the script in the beginning, I was like, I just can't believe he's telling this story. Twice in the film, men tell Molly that she's not presenting herself appropriately physically. Her boss tells her that she has ugly clothes, and so she goes and buys really sexy clothes to make her more desirable in the room. And then also her lawyer tells her she looks like a Cinemax version of herself and that she needs to change her clothes. I mean, there's so much in this film that deals with what a woman has to do to try to find some bit of success, to find some sense of power over her own life. And I'm really impressed that Aaron Sorkin, who could have told any story that he wanted, chose to tell that story.
I'd love to believe that's because he has a daughter now. And
I think so.
I really think that has made him, empowered him to write
He said that.
women. He did say that?
he said
Well.
But also, do you know what he said to me the other day when we
What?
were talking about what's going on in the industry? His daughter, Roxy, he said, that he was talking to her and saying, listen, when you go into the workforce, if a guy grabs you or does something with you, you can scream, you can fight back, you can do all these things. And that she turned to him and said, Dad, why are you teaching me to defend myself and not teaching those guys not to be creeps?
Wow.
Good point.
Well, good
Yeah.
point, Roxy.
So absolutely, I think that's what he's trying to do now, is to teach men not to be creeps. It's not, the onus isn't on the women. Society has a way of blaming victims, and you didn't come out soon enough, or you're not asking for enough money. But actually, the onus is on the others not to abuse their power.
Absolutely.
Mary, this is your most ambitious feature you've done. What was the preparation process like for this compared to your normal music career and preparation that you normally go through?
Well, of course, I needed an acting coach.
Yep.
But I think I was being prepared for this role ever since I was a little girl. My mom and my dad are Southern people. And they came to New York in their 20s and they had me. And I was born in the Bronx, so I'm a New York girl. But my mom sent me to Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, every summer. So I got this, my grandmother was this woman, Florence. My aunts was this woman, Florence, all my aunts. And every woman in the South, they grew their own, they had farms and chickens and all these different things, but they had this silent power. They didn't really say much, but you knew that they were powerful because of the way their men treated them and because of how everybody treated them. So that part of my life prepared me to be Florence. Florence was a silent, powerful woman. And when she spoke, her husband listened because she didn't say much. And she loved her family. So she was just this woman that really, really loved her family. And they didn't wear, they were all stripped down. They didn't wear things that we wear these days. And they didn't hang on to them. They just were free, strong women. So that's what prepared me, of course, in the acting coach. You just come back.
Well,
You come all the way back. Yeah?
I love you, Mama.
I love you too, baby. My acting coach is one of my friends. So I was going through hell in my personal life, and I just ran over to the house, and I just threw myself on the floor and started crying. And she was like, this is what you do. She didn't baby me. She said, you take all of that shit and you give it to Florence. And I was so like, oh no, hug me, do something. And I had to pull myself together and just give everything to Florence. So that was the first thing I said to her, like, help me, I'm going through it. And she said, forget it, give it to Florence.
Is there something memorable that an acting coach has said to one of you through your career, or a mentor figure, or something that you carry with you for each performance?
Yeah, my Sanford Meisner told me, don't let anyone tell you you're too tall to act.
That's a James quote, how can you measure acting in inches? I told him he was too short.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That always stays with me. Silly. Anyway.
Al Pacino told me, that was he directed my first film, and he said that for film, it has to be real. So whatever you are feeling, the camera's an extension. It can see more into you than your scene partner. And so to look at it, not like it's a separate thing, but it's part of your body almost. It has a direct link to your soul. So whatever you're feeling, you can try to hide it, but the camera's gonna get it. So it's the sense of once you allow that and allow yourself to hide a little bit if you want, but it's still going to see it anyway. And whatever you are feeling, that's what the character's feeling. And I was so lucky that was my first film, because I was afraid to go from, I started in theater, and I was afraid to go from theater to film, because I thought there was going to be a big difference in the acting. And that advice changed everything for me.
That's great.
Get it out.
I did a period film recently, and it was set in the 16th century. And there was...
Brooklyn?
No,
Brooklyn
16th century.
Is the 19th century.
20th century. But one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was from one of the other actors that was on the job. I was trying to figure out a saying, and it's like, so much of it is this like beautiful sort of traditional old language, which is great, but it's very kind of hard to get to the heart of it, And there's this big saying in the film between me and one of the other characters. And I was trying to figure out how to do it. And it was just this big turning point it's a bit Mary Queen of Scots for Mary. And I was talking to one of the other actors, and he said, basically what it comes down to is you just have to talk like a human. And as soon as he said it to me, I just kind of went, oh yeah, that's actually it. Like no matter what era you're in or what kind of language you're using, it's just about sort of like remembering that this person is just a human being, regardless of like what situation they're in. So.
Did you have any challenge in playing a version of your director on Lady Bird? Was it, with her
Well,
there?
I was just terrified that I was going to mess it up, I think, because she was there every day. Because she was there every day. I mean, it's not necessarily autobiographical, but I think what we've been saying is sort of when Greta and I came together, Lady Bird was born. So she's kind of like, she's come from us, but she's very sort of separate to us too. And she's sort of like the girl that we've aspired to be a little bit, or aspired to be when we were 17.
I want to go where culture is, like New York, or at least Connecticut or New Hampshire, where writers live in the woods.
Get into those schools anyway.
Mom.
You can't even pass your driver's test.
Because you wouldn't let me practice
The way
enough.
that you work, or the way that you don't work, you're not even worth state tuition, Christine.
My name is Lady Bird.
Well, actually, it's not, and it's ridiculous.
Call me
because your
Lady
name
Bird
is
like
Christine.
you said you would.
You should just go to City College. With your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
She's a ballsy girl as well. She's confident, and she's got a lot of self-belief, and she's also got a lot of self-doubt, and just getting, and again, we've talked about it a lot now, but just having well-rounded female characters is so important, and it's something that we're all going to gravitate towards because we want to do good work. And so getting to play a character like that's magic, and she's also flawed, is amazing.
Jennifer, when you were making Mother, I'm curious about the process, because obviously when you sign on to this film, it's going to be polarizing, and it's going to go to a place that will make some people uncomfortable. What is it like making a film like that? Is there a conversation around, people are going to go nuts over this?
I mean, we would laugh about it, but I mean, by the time we showed up, nobody had any doubts about what we were doing. You know, we spent 3 months meeting in a warehouse in Brooklyn, talking over the themes of the movie and talking about the movie. By the time we got there, we were rock solid on what we were doing. To the point that even when the movie came out and, you know, we have like an F cinema score, something like 63%, we're just like, nobody's really surprised. We're just like, well, yeah. I mean, we knew that when we were on set, and it was just kind of it's kind of like an inside joke. I've never done a movie before where every time you make a movie, you're like, I hope everyone likes it. This is the first time I've ever made a movie where we know not everybody's gonna like it. People, I mean,
And there was no fear of that?
Hate it. No. I mean, if there was fear of that, then none of us would have been there. Anybody who showed up on that set was prepared. We knew what we were doing. There really were no surprises.
Do you fear what the reaction to your work is going to be?
Yeah. We all do.
Yeah, but how so? I mean, when you're making it, you said that you went into this knowing...
Sorry, you were asking them.
I know, but you went into this knowing it was going to be polarized.
Yeah.
When you're going into your projects, do you fear that, is this going to be taken the right way? Is this going to, am I making a fool of myself? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. But I think that also there comes a point where you kind of have to just let it go and go like, all right, well, this is, you like what she's talking about. You get to know it so well. You go into it and you're like, well, this is what we're doing. So in the end, if you had this great collaborative experience with a group of people who really cared about the project, I mean, I think it's actually harder when the wheels come off while you're filming something and you're like, when there's a bunch of different ideas that are happening on the day, because I've certainly had that experience of like going into something thinking it was one thing and having it turn into a completely different experience. That's harder to get behind it when it's coming out and not be afraid of what that kind of reaction. But when you're in a team mentality, which is the greatest thing about doing, it's my favorite part about getting to do the job that I do, is that feeling of being a team and being a cog in a bigger machine. It's so amazing to know, like, well, all right, we all did this together, and whatever happens, we're going down with that ship.
Right.
It's always a gamble.
Yeah.
You never know.
And you hope that you're doing work that's, exciting or challenging enough that you don't know what the reaction is necessarily going to be.
Are you usually right? Are you usually right in how your films will be received?
Well, it's interesting because I don't do anything. I just assume it's not going to be commercially successful. I don't know why that's what I'm going in. I always assume that. But for me, my fear is that they're not going to understand what we were doing. So the idea of like, you need the cliff notes, you know what I mean? Like to go to an audience member and go, did you get that part? Because we all the work.
So your biggest fear was my experience on Mother.
But I watched that movie and I loved it because I was like, wow, this is so deep. And look at all this stuff they did. And for me, I love all that work that goes into a film. That my greatest fear is that they're not going to understand, or get it, what we were doing. But those are the films that usually in 20 years, all of a sudden will be revisited, So I kind of allow that to happen.
I'm not normally right or normally wrong. I have no instincts at all. I just go in blindly, and then while I'm there, I'm like, who knows? I really don't. I'm so bad at knowing when a movie's going to be bad or good.
Even after you've seen the finished product?
Oh, yeah. When I saw Winter's Bone, I was like, well, better lock up shop. No one's going to see this. I know. You don't know. It's so hard because, like, the first time I watch anything, I'm just watching, like, my double chin and my acne and my, bloated.
Crazy.
Yeah, so the first time I ever see a movie, am I the only one?
No, I am the same.
I've never seen one of my movies.
Listen, I'm my worst critic.
She knows
so
just what
I don't
to
even
say.
listen to myself.
You don't listen?
I know I'm my worst critic. Because like she said, I'm looking at how horrible everything is.
You don't listen to your music either?
No, I'm not. Not really. And I don't even look at any of my performances back again. Like, I just don't want to see it. I just got used to listening to my own speaking voice, like maybe 5 years ago.
No way.
Yeah. No, I can't listen to my own
Speaking voice is the hardest part. That's like listening to yourself on a voicemail. It's like, that's what I
Is that how it sounds?
Seriously, I just started listening to maybe a song from me.
But you know what's good about that, though,
Yes.
is that it's just going from your feeling. Like, because I hate watching anything that I'm in, never get anything out of it. Lady Bird was the first time I've actually like been able to sit down and go, oh yeah, it's really good. But I think that's because if you obviously go from your instinct as well, and you're performing from your instinct, and you don't, like, I find I don't need to look at the end product, or that's not what I'm doing it for.
Right.
I'm doing it for being on set and like working with everyone.
Right, and I don't want to see it again and get programmed and do that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever do the same thing ever again in anything I do. I want it to be fresh every time.
Taylor.
So,
Yeah,
and then I just don't want to see it anyway.
I do. My work is on the set. I have the experience, and that's what it was for me. And I don't need to see it. And then the movie comes out, and it's like, oh God, I got to go. And I don't. I will go down the red carpet, and then I'll go out to dinner and meet people at the party. But I don't want to.
The opposite of all of you girls.
Yeah, what were you saying here?
Taylor, because we all have a little bit to do with The Help. Not all of us, I know, but a lot of us at this table.
Yeah.
And Taylor, the director of The Help, just made me laugh so much because I had seen myself do this before. And on the set of The Help, he goes, all right, why don't you just do your Terry Crass smile? And I'm like, I know exactly it's like, with a tear. Do your Terry Crass smile this scene, I don't care. I was like, oh my God, I've never done it since. I was like, it's my Terry Crass smile moment.
Oh my God.
If I see it in a movie,
That's
I'm like,
the worst if I see something and I recognize
Oh
it.
my God.
So you're the opposite. You learn from watching yourself.
It's the weird.
You're like, he's figured me out. He got it.
it's my shtick.
I wonder if it's because in real life, I don't really wear a lot of makeup normally. I'm kind of like at my house, whatever, normal. No one really stops me on the street or anything like that. Perhaps it's because I don't love the way I look normally, that when I'm acting, my characters look so different.
Is that important for you then when you're choosing a role, or like even once you've agreed to do something that physically you just want it to be very different to you?
In fact, with Molly's Game, before I showed up, it was like a month before, Aaron started saying, you know, I think I want Molly to look like you. And I was like, what? It was a whole like out of nowhere, because if you Google Molly Bloom, she looks like a Kardashian. I mean, she really is. It's a completely
Take it easy.
in the most fabulous way.
Watch it.
I mean, we did the shading, we did everything for this character to kind of like show that. I realized that for me, I don't want it to be me in a character.
I think it's the same with accents as well. I find that with accents.
Yeah.
Like I'm only starting to get to the stage now
You
where...
don't have to do that accent anymore.
Okay. I'm so excited to be here. Honestly.
Right, there's my girl.
This is who I really am. But I think that was something that I found I could use as a sort of shield for, not that I wasn't like delving into the characters or anything, but just maybe because I started when I was young, it was a great way to like separate
Yeah, it's much
myself
easier to
from
come
them.
in and out that
Yeah,
way.
I mean, your accent is such a huge part of who you are, how you communicate, how you interact. And I've found only recently I'm getting to the stage where like I actually kind of want to use my accent in a film, you know, but it's a very vulnerable thing to do, I think, with your physicality and how you sound and things like that.
Well, when I watched Rock of Ages,
I was like,
that's Mary J. Blige.
and you didn't know what you looked like because you never looked at footage of
Mary J.
yourself.
Blige. Oh, that's awful. That's not supposed to be Mary J. Blige. It's supposed to be the character. And then I saw Mudbound at Sundance, and I looked at the character when I was finally able to, because I was trying to direct everybody, your part's coming, your part's coming. And I was trying to hide from my part, and it was like, God was like, and when I saw the character, when I saw Florence, I just started crying because it wasn't me. I was like, who was that? It was a character. So that was a moment for me where I was like, wow, okay, I've done something.
And then was it easier for you to watch yourself because you could watch it and think that's a character?
I'm sorry?
Was it easier for you to watch yourself on screen because it wasn't
From
you?
that moment on, I was able to watch the movie at Sundance. I sat and I watched the whole movie, but before my part came, I was like, "Look, your part, because your part's coming."
You sound horrible
You
to
did
sit
so
next
good.
to at a party.
And I'm talking, and everybody's looking at me like, "Shut up!" Right. But I'm trying to direct them, and it was like when my part came, it was like that was completely directed to look at it, and I had to look at it, and it wasn't me.
Have you watched it since?
I cried.
Have you watched it since, or have you only watched it the once?
I think I watched it twice.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we watched it in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was cool. Because I see Mary J. Blige in everything I do.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad we got rid of her.
Allison, is there someone in your career or a performer that has most influenced your work?
Oh gosh, I don't know if there are. Well, I mean, Laurie Metcalf. I first saw her in.
That's Saoirse Ronan.
Laurie Metcalf. Oh, I'm sorry, darling. Then she plays her mother in Lady Bird. I saw her, and on Broadway. No, I'm thinking now. I'm like, now it just went on my head in this play. Not Balm. It was Balm and Gilead.
The one this year?
Oh, yeah, with the monologue,
Doll's House?
where Laurie had the long
Laurie did a
monologues.
monologue, and I saw her in
Amazing.
Glenn Headley, and I had two feelings. One was that I was going to quit acting because I would never be able to do what they did, and then the other was like, I'm going to do that. I want to do. They inspired me and scared the shit out of me watching those brilliant women perform. And then through the years, other performances. It's not like I'm just glued to one actress, but different performances have inspired me over the years. Of course, now that you're asking me, I can't think of one, but certainly every one of these women around this table have inspired me.
Laurie Metcalf.
Myself,
Laurie. Jessica Chastain. No, she's not Mary J. Blige.
Well, I am
Always
Yeah,
like,
right, okay.
my God, Judi Dench.
Judy.
One thing about
so cool.
One thing about I, Tonya that's interesting, and this is something that for the table as well, is the decision to take on a nasty character and someone who is not just a villain in the story, but is actually a real person.
Yeah, and how about that? One of my best friends wrote it for me.
Right.
That's like,
Whoa.
yeah,
That's
Very must know something about you.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He must know the dark underside of my soul. I don't know. He just knew that I would. I think he knew that I'd like, because there was only one. We had one little short video clip of the real Lavanna Harding, and in the clip, she wears a fur coat with a bird on her shoulder and a bowl haircut and these big glasses, and it's phenomenal. But it's the only footage we had, and he couldn't find her because he interviewed Tonya Harding and Jeff Gillooly, and found both of their stories were so wildly contradictory that he decided, I've got to tell this movie through everybody's point of view, because it's crazy how everyone has a completely different version of what happened. So we couldn't find the mother, so it's Tanya's version of her mother, and Tonya thought her mother was a monster.
I mean, when I was a kid, did you ever love me or anything?
You think Sonia Henny's mother loved her? Poor fucking you. I didn't stay home making apple brown betties. No, I made you a champion. Knowing you'd hate me for it. That's the sacrifice a mother makes. I wish I'd had a mother like me instead of nice. Nice gets you shit. I didn't like my mother either. So what? I fucking gave you a gift.
It was wonderful because I got to do all this old age makeup, and it was like 3 hours of this makeup, and I saw myself and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I don't have to worry about my jowls or I didn't care about it. It was so freeing to go and work on a part that I didn't care what I looked like. And it was really fantastic. I was just like, and even seeing it, I was like, oh God, I can watch myself because I'm so awful.
Right.
I don't know why it
takes away the vanity.
Yeah, there's no vanity involved in it. It was really kind of really, really, really fun to play her and find her. Find the part of her that I had to always find something in my characters that I like, or I understand what motivates her, and there actually was something positive and good that motivated her, even though her methods of mothering she's not going to win Mother of the Year at all.
Do you think about the kind of morals of the character before you agree to play the character? No.
I don't.
No.
I play.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, before I signed on, I judged Molly a lot because I saw pictures of her and I was like, And then I met her, and then I actually then blamed myself for kind of believing this story that the media had given me. But I've played people who've killed people, and I don't think you can judge them. You have to find out. For me, I feel actually more sorry for people who are making mistakes. I have more empathy for the characters that do the wrong thing.
I judge mine, but then I'll just go right in. No, I mean, when I was doing Mother, I've never played a character that was so different in her personality than myself, and it was incredibly irritating through the whole thing. I would just be like, I would just continue to just say, well, why would she put up with that, and why would she say that? And it's because she's not me. That's not how she would handle something. So I was very judgmental and thought she was very annoying. But in between action and cut, and when I was prepared, when I was her, I fully understood why she would think that way. But when I was me, I was like, what an idiot.
Emma, what's the worst career advice you've ever been given?
It's something I've said, probably.
Probably something she told me. The worst career
Let me
advice
run your
I've
life
been
or whatever.
given.
Let me run your life.
No, that's actually pretty good advice. Probably advice I've given to myself, like things that I've told myself are not like that. It's
I
not
was
okay
just thinking the same thing.
Right?
I was just going
I'm
to tell
pretty
you the
hard
worst advice
on
you've
me.
ever given is by yourself.
Yeah,
She's
it's
so hard on
I'm
herself.
so hard on myself,
Really?
and I think because I've made mistakes before, I have such a hard time forgiving myself that I get scared and then I lock up. I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this because as time has gone on, I've gotten more excited to play people that are unlike me or that are where I need to go into different worlds because I've felt so for so long just in my own experience. And so that's what I understood how to play. But now that I am able to see how rewarding it is to lose yourself in someone else's experience, to find these people that are nothing like you and let their traits infuse your life. I mean, like playing Billie Jean has truly changed my life. She's infused so much into my spirit that it's incredibly exciting.
To do that?
Sort of. I mean, there was a shift that was happening a couple of years ago. Maybe it's just maturity or whatever my path is as an actor and as a human, as a woman. But it became something that I really wanted to expand into because for a long time I was playing different versions of myself, teary cry smile and all. And even if it wasn't supposed to be a version of myself, I didn't really fully understand how to access that.
You're so mean to my good friend Emily.
Please don't talk about my friend like that. But I, as time has gone on, it's become so incredibly rewarding to take risks, to dare, to not be afraid to make mistakes, because that's just been, as the most anxious kid you've ever met. My whole life has been defined by, please don't mess up, I can't mess up, no. And that's changing, which is incredible.
How about you, Allison? Worst career advice?
It would be obviously from myself. Don't do that. You're terrible. Don't, I'm just a terrible self-critic too. I guess, are we all that way or no? I don't know. I'm really, really hard on myself. And, but I usually try to go, what is Allison telling Allison to do? Let's do the opposite, Like when I did a Broadway musical. I got offered that and I was like, I'm not doing a Broadway musical. I can't sing. I'm not doing that.
I saw you in a musical.
I would love to do it. You saw me. Did you see mine? It's the only one I've done, so it had to be that one.
It was good.
It was good. I was all right?
You were good. You're always good.
I love you.
Please.
Anyway, so definitely myself. No one else's. Oh, there was one movie. Never mind.
How about you, Saoirse? I mean, you must, you've made interesting choices as an actress, and you've avoided going the kind of gigantic Hollywood, blockbuster route.
Yeah.
Is that by choice, or is that something that you see as do you see yourself as a certain type of actress?
No, definitely not. I mean, listen, if a big budget film came along that was great and they wanted me to be in it and I liked the role, then yeah, of course I would do it. But I've just gravitated towards certain things. But I think it'd be wrong to sort of pigeonhole yourself as like an indie actor or, a movie star or whatever. I think one of the things it was one of the best pieces of advice that someone gave me recently was that you should never do something you should never do something because you should do it, if you know what I mean. You should only do something because you want to or because you feel like you need to. And so I think that's something, because I've been the same as you, like very, very harsh critic on myself, really kind of beating myself up about certain things over the years. And also just knowing that you haven't stood up for yourself as much as you probably should. And I've always had that in my head, like I should do this, I should do this. Not even just with work, but just in life, It's something that I think you get over that with maturity and just realizing what's actually important. So that's something I've had to work on for sure.
Is there an actor, living or dead, that you would most like to meet or collaborate with?
Gary Oldman.
Really?
And Gary Oldman and Isabelle Huppert are my favorite, but Isabelle played my mother in a movie, so Gary Oldman, for sure.
Why him?
I've always, since I was a little kid, when I would watch him on screen, he's someone that when you watch from performance to performance, he doesn't look like himself.
No, totally.
And I think that's probably why...
You never recognize him.
That's what I'm drawn to in acting. And it means that in real life, I'm sure he can go down the street and people don't recognize him, which is insane to me that people wouldn't recognize Gary Oldman, but he's a shapeshifter. And he changes his voice, he changes the way he look.
Especially in the new
Dracula.
film.
Yeah.
I said that in my earlier interview, so I just want to say I think Jessica stole that from me.
She stole it from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about Gary Oldman.
In 2012, I did an interview where I said he was my cinematic crush.
Footnotes. I'll show you the exact
I hate answering these questions because I feel like I'll say one actor and then I'll leave and then there's like 45 of them. It's like I want to say Bill Murray, but I can't. I can't.
You can say Bill Murray.
No, I'm going to say Bill Murray. No, I mean it, Bill Murray. I don't mean it flippantly. I mean like Bill Murray.
Yes.
But I hate answering those questions because there's just too many.
How about you?
If I don't do something with Diane Keaton before the end of time, I don't know what I'll do.
Oh,
yeah.
You should do something with her.
She's my everything. I love her so much.
Talk about her a lot.
Yeah, I talk about her a little bit too much. And I also absolutely love Hank Azaria. I think he's like criminally underrated and brilliant.
Mary, when you recently decided to focus on acting, is there a career path that you are envisioning?
A career path that I'm envisioning?
Yeah, someone's
for
career
acting?
that you'd like to emulate in the acting side. The choices they've made, some of the roles they've played.
Oh, I thought you meant like personally. No.
No.
Definitely not.
I know this may sound cliche because everyone says this. Meryl Streep is like, I wish I could do some of that. Like she's another one that transforms. She goes from Death Becomes Her to the movie where she's not even speaking English. I forget the name of the movie.
Sophie's Choice.
Yeah, she's just like, oh my goodness. And the question about, if there's someone I would like to act with, dead or alive, Frank Sinatra, because I didn't know he was a great actor like that. And of course he's a great singer, but yeah, anyway, Angela Bassett is another one that I think is just amazing. And those are like my top two in her because she's just like amazing in Juno. Yeah. And she made me laugh till I cry in Juno. And then she's just amazing in everything she does. Like they just do it so easily.
She has the Bill Murray-esque where no matter what she's doing, you love her so much. Even in I, Tonya, when she was being the worst mother in the world, I'm like, no, I think this is going to turn around. Yeah. I really like her, yeah.
Right, I haven't even seen I, Tonya yet, and I saw the preview at the Hollywood Film Awards, and I was like, oh, I have to see this movie.
And Mom.
I have to, where she's cursing her daughter out with the cigarette. Like,
you're so brilliant in Mom
did
as
you
well.
a favor.
When I'm sad, that's what I would watch. I love you and Anna together. It's great to watch.
I love you. Thank you. That's really sweet.
I want one Billie Jean King question. How much did you interact with her? How much did you take from her, personal cues and the things that you learned from her in playing the role? Early
on, we met. I sat with her and her partner Alana, and we talked for a long time. And then we got each other's phone numbers, and I was like, we started talking about things, and I realized that she had over 40 years of hindsight on those kinds of events. Like if you asked me about an event that happened when I was 12, I'd say, obviously it hasn't been 40 years, but I would say, okay, here's what I learned from that, and here's how my life sort of changed from then, and I can understand it in a different way now. And so I realized pretty quickly that watching footage of her at that time, studying as much as I possibly could from that era was going to benefit me in a different way because she was in the midst of so much turmoil and struggle, and yet had to put on this public face as essentially the leader of equality in her industry. So it was actually really helpful to just sort of immerse myself in that time period and ask her questions every once in a while. But now we've got to know each other. Did
you see it for the first time when she saw it for the first time?
No, she watched it on her own in Vegas twice in a row in a hotel room. And I was like, she's watching it now? They were like, yeah, she's watching it again. I was like, what? I haven't heard from her. I didn't hear from her for like a week.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
And what was the
because I
first
think it was-
communication?
She was so wonderful and she's been so supportive the whole time. But I think this is a deeply emotional experience for her to, I mean, think about your first love and how that turned out. And then you're watching someone play the heights of that love. And there was so much secrecy and she was married and I think that's just, she's so generous with her life story and that has to be so excruciating. And she said that for her to watch or for Alana to watch. You know, Alana's seen it like 9 times now and it's just, it's a lot. I think it's a lot to take in. It's really painful to sort of sit with. So she's just incredible to let us take that story and share it with the world in that way.
Is there one line from one of your movies, one of your characters' lines, that has stuck with you and that you just really love?
You are not a stand-up guy. It's from Silver Linings Playbook. And whenever David makes me mad, I always say it to him.
How often is that?
Yesterday.
How about you, Jessica?
Well, the only thing, it's because it's a line that's always quoted to me. Whenever someone recognizes me, they say, I'm the motherfucker who found this place, sir. Always. That's the only one.
Yeah.
And
It's a good line.
It's good. It gets a slightly. I was actually at a boat show in Florida a few weeks ago, and these guys came over. This gay couple, and they were Southern, and they would like, pardon my language, but I love motherfucker. It was like, yes.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Saoirse?
I had to think about that for a second. I think the one that I can just remember, which I think is just quite a good message anyway, is adapt or die, think on your feet, or think on my feet, even when I'm sleeping. And that's from Hannah. And it's this bit where her dad is sort of like basically preparing her for the world. And she's got all of this sort of drilled into her head in order to go out into this world that like she knows nothing about. But I think that's quite a good thing to remember, to just adapt to like every situation that you're in as much as you can.
I have a good one that actually I've wanted to say in probably every movie I've ever done, but I get to say it in this one. Well, my storyline is disappearing. What the fuck?
That is a good line.
So good.
That was a big laugh line at the premiere.
It's a very funny little scene. They thought they were going to cut it out, but they just found, wow, that might be work here. They kept moving it all throughout the movie because it's such a funny little.
Very in the character too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Love is a kind of survival. Florence Jackson.
Interesting. That's great. And you get the last word.
Piss off, Quiznos. That's from Easy A. Just like shove a Quiznos guy and just say piss off, Quiznos.
That's a good one.
Yes.
I just watched it last night.
I auditioned for Easy A. I wanted it so bad.
Well,
Really?
guess what? You didn't get it.
You didn't get it because you suck.
Have you ever told her that before?
We've talked about
we auditioned for all the same stuff. Oh my God.
All the same stuff.
It's been two days we spent.
Like, what
doing
about this one?
Yeah.
We're texting back and forth about, that was only like a couple months ago when we realized, we're like, really?
Well,
It's been every
what was
single
funny
one.
was you and I were going over, and we were like, oh, audition for that too. And it wasn't until the next day that I was like, oh my God, I auditioned for Easy A. Like, I didn't even remember it.
Have you ever thought about working together?
No. What? I would
Why not?
love to. I would love to. I keep trying to convince her.
Damn.
I have so many ideas.
Oh my God.
She's always like, we'll
There's
talk
one
about it
idea
later.
that's floating around, but it's a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret idea.
Wait, did you forget about it, or were you being a better secret
I was
keeper?
just trying to be a good secret.
Oh, you're so much better than me.
You can tell us what it is.
I can't have a
No, we
secret
can't.
without.
On that note, I'd like to thank our guests
Good
today.
try.
That was a terrific conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Ready?
Okay, quiet on set.
And I look down the lens.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Margot Robbie.
Bryan Cranston, Robert Pattinson, John Boyega,
Sam Rockwell.
Willem Dafoe.
Emma Stone.
Allison Janney.
Guillermo del Toro. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching The Hollywood Reporter
The Hollywood Reporter.
The Hollywood Reporter
on YouTube.
on YouTube.